Kieran,
Pablo,
how you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, my friend?
I am alive, so I can't complain.
That is
I,
good.
before we even get started on anything, I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. Kieran,
Yeah,
right?
buddy, you know me like a year and a half now.
Dude, you have one of those like intimidating
I
names.
appreciate that. I mean, to match my overall aura and stuff. So,
Well, naturally. So will you please introduce yourself for the audience?
all right, everyone. Hello, audience. I'm Kieran, data analyst by day. I guess kickball extraordinaire by night. And Pablo and I are teammates, and we got our winter season starting up. And here I am in my cozy Lower East Side studio, trying to get through this second wave of the coronavirus. But my spirits ain't dead, and we're moving forward. So 2021 will be lighter days.
Dude, you went forever without drinking in the beginning of the pandemic.
That is correct.
How long did
For
you go?
4 months exactly. It was exactly 122 days. I was keeping the kickball team abreast of it through the thread. It was just a matter of I haven't really stopped going out in a couple of years now, and a couple, it's probably more than 10. So I guess I used it as a time to cleanse myself and reflect a little bit, and then a few weeks turned into a few months. But it was a good time. It was peaceful, and once the summer hit, outdoor dining was here again. It's like let's get back to social matters. So
Did you notice any differences for those 4 months, physically or mentally?
I mean, it wasn't just the fact that I stopped drinking. The fact that the whole world was locked down, I had to deal with that. So I can't independently isolate the fact that I stopped going out in that regard. I will say, I live by myself, and you think that these would be like scary, like really lonely times, but the fact that I knew no one else was going out, FOMO is a huge factor. The fact that like everyone else is staying in, so I'm not out there I'm not in here missing out on anything. Like no one else is out there raging, so I don't really feel that left out. So that was probably the biggest factor that we don't talk about in terms of why I was able to deal with this spring. So
That is such a good point that I had never thought about. There was very little to no FOMO for what, 6 months?
something like that. I mean, it was probably more like two before we all started going outside. So maybe there was a month or two when people were out and about where I was just still kind of still holed up. But I mean, that aspect is over. Unfortunately, I mean, I thought that it was going to last a few months max. Well, I thought it was going to last a few weeks at first of this whole pandemic, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So the past week, we know that it's been a little snowy, and I haven't really done anything social in about 8 days, and I'll have to go home for Christmas, which is nice. But 2021 will be a better time, so things will pick up and positive vibes overall.
Yeah, me and my friends, we're thinking that by midsummer to late summer, things will be not quite 100% normal, but we'll be pretty close to it.
At the
I
very least, yeah, I mean, at the very least by March, like it won't be too cold to be outside again, so I can just throw down some beers with some friends or whatever. But we got kickball coming up in a month, so that'll despite the fact that winter kickball is still outdoors, like we'll be warm. The warmth of
well,
the vibes.
it is going to be freezing out there. I
We'll
need to
get
buy gloves.
we'll get through it. I got my snowshoes, if you will. So
So I
kudos.
do I do have a question for you though. How did you get into kickball, and how long have you been doing it? Because I mean, you're obviously
That's
the
right.
god of kickball.
Well, I mean, Chemo's been in it since the late aughts, if you will. So we do have one teammate who's been in it over a decade now, and I've only been 8 years. I would say that after college, I had to move home to Brooklyn for a little bit, and a little bit turned into a few years, and I knew I had to shake it up a little bit. And once I got into the city, out of Brooklyn, out of my parents' house, I knew that I'd have to, start making new friend groups or whatever. And for some reason, I guess kickball always was. Like the answer. I always knew, okay, I'm gonna join kickball. And night one in the Lower East Side, I realized, I was home. That this was where I wanted to be. This is how I'm going to branch out. So there've been ups and there've been downs, as it's a reflection of life in some aspects. But here we are, still doing it, and it's been, a huge part of this insane Manhattan life. So no complaints in that regard.
It's crazy because I've been here now in New York for 3 years, and something that no one could have even like warned me about, and even if they did, I wouldn't have believed them. but going between boroughs can be such a challenge and such a headache. It's almost like long distance.
I feel that.
And the fact that you just said that you went from Brooklyn into the city and you needed to kind of make a new group of friends, it's like, man, it really is like moving between cities.
I mean, the fact that I'm in South Brooklyn, which is kind of like hometown Brooklyn, not like the quote unquote like Williamsburg, cool hipster
Right.
areas. And I wanted to branch out. It's not like I didn't have my group of friends already. It's not like I was looking to replace the friends that I already had. But certainly, considering the fact that if I was about to tackle this Manhattan life and pay that Manhattan rent, I knew that I was going to have to get the value out of all these expenses. So, immediately I had to shake things up. So,
Oh, without
kickball
a
was an
doubt.
answer in that regard. So, the fact that I had to, start anew in some ways. So,
Well, I'm excited to do kickball in the winter. Like I
that's
said, I
it.
gotta buy gloves. I gotta buy gloves because I don't own a pair.
I got you. I think I bought a pair recently and I immediately lost one of the gloves. So,
How does that happen? I've seen so many random gloves in the subway before, and I'm
yeah,
like, what is going on here?
I'm the king of like losing one of a pair. Anyway,
That's funny. So, where did you go to college? You said that you moved out for college and then you moved back to Brooklyn afterwards.
that's right. I mean, I went to Boston College. I remember it was like, '04, '05, my final years of high school. I, of course, went to an all boys high school and I just needed to go away to college and go to a school that actually had females, if you will. But my sister was actually a senior at BC when I was a freshman, and in the earlier years we went up to visit her and stuff. And I always pictured that that would be where my college fantasy would always just kind of put itself at BC because that was a campus I already knew. So I guess my goal was always to just follow her there and bug her a little bit. But uh, that's where my college scene happened, and I don't think about those days too much anymore. It was what it was, and I was a little sad about it when I graduated in a terrible economic time, and had to kind of I didn't quite have good as a social life in the immediate years, but it was a good time, and that was behind me. So
Well, like you say, in life there's ups and downs, and I mean, you just got to get through the good and the bad, right?
a little bit, and my Manhattan lifestyle is just getting through the bad. So one direction, you got to move forward.
Oh, absolutely. So, hold on. You actually went to an all boys high school?
That is correct, my friend.
How was that like, and why was that this situation?
I mean, I'm a Catholic school kid, and like there was a co-ed one more locally from where I'm from, like in the Garrettson Beach, Sheepshead Bay area, where most of my elementary school friends went. But Zavarian and Bay Ridge was probably a little bit better, if you will. Just had a little bit more to offer, and I guess my parents always saw that for me, so I probably didn't want to do it. But the cultural aspect was fun. I mean, I guess it messed me up in life still to this day. No, I'm just joking, but I mean, and then it went co-ed 5 years ago, which was way, way after I graduated. But I mean, that was a good time for what it was. And I mean, like there are aspects of high school that like wouldn't have been, the fact that it was all boy, like you could, let your hair down a little bit more. I mean, figuratively speaking, and not really care about offending people as much, or not really care about your appearance as much. So,
What were you able? So, because I know something that I experienced, obviously, as many people do in late middle school, high school, you start to explore dating and stuff like that. Were you able to date, even though like where would you meet girls? I guess.
I know. Yeah, that was were crazy times, and even if I had such outlets back in the day, like I probably didn't have too much experience in that regard in those years, and that's all I'll say about that.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine if you're like in an all boys school. I mean, was there like a all girl school like
Yeah, and there were
companionship type of
dances, but
thing?
they were like like there was like a dance or two a year where they would come, but I guess not really my scene. So like those were trying times, and who we were in high school isn't who we are today. So that's like
Oh,
half my
far
lifetime.
from it.
That's
Far
half
from it,
my
man.
lifetime ago now. So
No, that's actually that's very interesting.
right.
No, but yeah, and so today you live in the Lower East. I mean, obviously you didn't drink for 4 months. I mean, that's pretty impressive, man.
Thank you. I mean, it was a lot easier with the lack of missing out of stuff. And on Zoom calls with friends, like it just at the end of the day, I'm still physically alone, like chilling on my couch. So even though I had my like a bunch of my friends, whether it would be our kickball squad on a Zoom call or my college friends or my hometown friends, if you will, like I didn't feel like drinking like on my couch by myself at the end of the day. So
Yeah, that's something that I've never been able to do really. Like I enjoy a beer or two every now and then,
sure,
but I can't imagine just sitting down at home by myself and having more than a beer or two. There's
I
got to
got
be
you.
something going on, right?
I'm with that. I'm with that. I mean, I did that once in my life, and that was kind of funny. But other than that, I mean, I pretty much just do it socially out with friends.
Yeah. No, and then and I don't know if it's good or bad because then when I do go out with my friends and I get excited, I'm like, "Yo, let's pound them down."
I mean, self control is not something that not something that we all have when we're out with our friends and all excited. So I can be right there with you, my friend.
Yeah. So, something that has been intriguing me about you is the fact that you're traveling
Okay.
and you're traveling quite a bit, it sounds like.
A little bit. I mean, I did my studies, and ultimately, it seems like that plane rides, are relatively safe because, for the most part, they're kind of spread out, and the air refiltration, or whatever the term is, and everyone's wearing masks. So, I mean, you, Pablo, of course, are on the kickball thread where I just show up at random state borders, and take a selfie with the sign, be it Nebraska or Arkansas or North Dakota or Idaho. All of a sudden, throughout the whole summer and fall, I would just update our group thread and out of nowhere and just send a picture with it. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm here. How did I get here? So it was basically just finding a flight to a random state, renting a car, and then maybe driving 10 hours or so along the way, and finding the cheapest route. Like one day in South Dakota, I drove like 6 hours total and hit Wyoming, Montana, and North Dakota, and then made it back to South Dakota before I made my way more east to hit up Iowa and Minnesota. So I just basically took the convenient routes so that I can check off 14 new states. So that's how you get from 33 states to 14 states in the span of 3 months during a pandemic. So I mean, I did the solo trip thing right, and it was all safe. And the most dangerous part was a plane ride, which is not much more dangerous than going to the grocery store where everyone's wearing their masks. So, I
That
went
is
to
very true.
California for a week, and then I got tested when I came back. That was about a week or two ago, and came up negative because I just did a socially distance trip, and so here I am without COVID and feeling good, and ready to go home for Christmas.
That's awesome, dude. What made you just decide to take that risk? Because for the longest time, I mean, nobody was traveling, and I don't know. Like, if you told someone that you were going to travel, they're like, "Oh my god, are you crazy?"
I mean, like I said, these are solo trips, primarily outdoors. You can't close a mountain. I'm not going to catch the coronavirus when I'm the only one who summited, a 3,000 foot, Salt Lake City, Utah mountain, and ascending for 4 hours. So, there are ways to still live your life and do it in a socially distant way. So, I had never done a solo trip before, and now I've done a few this year. So,
Oh wow. So where's the first place that you went to by yourself?
it was in July. I flew to Salt Lake City, then drove up to Idaho just for like 5 minutes. Did some hiking, drove through the southwest end of Colorado, and then made my way south to Albuquerque, and just walked around that city and experienced that hub. So a few national parks, a few different crazy hikes, and I guess I've done that. I went to South Dakota and then wound up in Chicago, and then I went to Arkansas one time. Drove to Kansas and Oklahoma for like 5 minutes because I was right by the border. And then I did California. So that's a good way to use all my vacation days because at the beginning of this, all my bosses were just like saying, okay, we want you guys to take as many vacation days as possible because I guess we figured it would be over by the fall when everyone would be taking vacation days. But it looks like there was never really a convenient time to go on like a real party vacation this year. So I just
Right.
used it. I just used these vacation days to take solo trips. So, I got a lot of miles under me. Saw some beauty in the domestic United States, if you will. And, I guess I have more knowledge about the world, or at least the country, for it.
No, that's awesome that you actually went out and traveled on your own, because I actually just had Stella Estrella on the podcast
Ah, Stella
maybe
Estrella.
maybe 2 episodes ago, and we were talking about how so many people are intimidated to travel on their own. They feel like they have to go with someone or a group or have to meet someone somewhere, right? But too often people are afraid to travel on their own. And we were talking about how traveling on your own, you learn so much and you experience so much, and you're on your own schedule, right? There's huge benefits to it.
First off, I'm going to give a shout out to our teammate Elizabeth, who inspired me to do so in the first place, because she's done that many a time in different countries. So, um, the fact that I guess most of my vacation days are, were just like party ones before. Like in January, I was in Miami. In February, I was at Mardi Gras, like 2 weeks before this thing happened. Like the fact that, in some ways, vacation days, like you're around your friends all the time, and maybe you get sick of each other a little bit after 4 or 5 days. So, and the fact that you have to compromise a little bit, it's like kind of you can't just do what you want to do. You have to kind of do what your friends want to do. When I drove to random states, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna drive to Wyoming. Now I'm gonna drive to Montana. Now I'm gonna drive to North Dakota. And I might have friends who wouldn't be down to do something like that. So the point is, all right, well, I'm not gonna bring you then. So I will say that I didn't tell my parents that I went on any of these trips. I mean, I'll admit it to my mom eventually, but and just laugh about it. But the fact that I guess they probably wouldn't want me traveling in this, in this coronavirus aspect, even though flying is relatively safe, and the fact that they worry about me being by myself. But it's I will say that it was nice being by myself for 5 days. And on some of these trips, I would have friends in like San Francisco or LA that I could drop by and see. I had a friend in Chicago, so some were solo trips, some were solo-ish trips, if you will.
Gotcha. No, but I mean the fact that you took the steps to actually
Yeah,
do it on your own, I mean that's awesome. I've only done that once, and it was probably the best trip I've ever had.
that's it. I mean,
Um
so good.
no, yeah, and it like you said, you can do, not everybody's going to be like, yeah, let's go and drive 14 15 hours all around these states and do whatever, right? They're always
Yeah,
going to want to do something else, or
yeah.
somebody gets hungry or somebody gets tired.
I mean, I wasn't always that adventurous, but then I realized I was going to be in I was going to be near some new states. And then I thought about how many states I'd been to, and I counted 33. And then I'm like, wait a minute, if I go on this trip, then I can hit these states. And then I started thinking about the big 50. So I was at 33 states. And then I thought, you know what, let me make it a goal of mine to hit the big 50. So I got three left. But I mean, you're right. The fact that I wasn't always the kind of guy who would drive to Idaho or New Mexico for no reason on a trip. But I mean, goals change, and dreams grow.
No, absolutely. And there's absolutely, see, and that's the thing, everybody changes. Like you had mentioned earlier, you're not who you are when you were in high school, right?
I would hope not. Thank God. I mean,
And
I had to grow out of some of that awkward.
well, I mean, you're a cool dude now, so
I
I don't
try.
know. I
I
don't know
try to
who
be that
that high
most
school
of the
guy was, but
He was all right. He was a lot needier, if you will. So I'm glad. Actually, in some ways, maybe some of my later friends in adulthood missed out at seeing that awkward Kieran, but he's never quite gone completely away, if you will.
no, but no, it's awesome that you found something during the coronavirus pandemic to actually say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna hit all 50 states eventually, right?
State
And you
collecting. It's a new
and you
hobby.
and yeah, and you start going and doing stuff. I mean, I literally have met so many people, or know so many people that haven't really done anything during the coronavirus pandemic, right?
Yeah, it's a must. You gotta find a way. At the very least, we learned earlier that the outdoors were safe. So go for a damn walk in the park.
Right, and I've consistently heard that vitamin D is good for you. So I would tell people like, hey, go outside. Go
Uh,
outside, get some sun. You don't have to you don't have to be around people. You don't have to go and kiss them. You don't have to go and like take your mask off and talk to them. No, you can literally go outside, go for a walk, socially distant, and you're gonna be so much better off for it.
and at the very least, outdoor dining has been proven to be like completely, like almost foolproofly safe. We had, we were completely flat in terms of coronavirus increases during the summer and whatnot. For like months and months before everyone went indoors, like we were living happily outside doing the outdoor dining. So like at the very least, I'm glad that we found a way to live and I'm anxious about maybe the next 2 months because we know that we're going to get over this wave as everyone's getting vaccinated and stuff. But and we know it's going to get warmer again. It's just I don't want to shut down my life. In the past week's been a little lonely, if you will, because this is my first time experiencing the effects of it being cold and the world kind of feeling shut down again. But we'll power through it. And some people are being really, really careful, and kudos to them. But at the very least, we shouldn't be scared to at least dine outdoors.
Yeah, and it's a difficult balance, right? Because you don't want to be that asshole that gets it and spreads it because you're trying to live your life, but you also don't want to be a hermit crab and lose your mind by just staying indoors 24/7.
I feel that.
And so it's such a difficult little, like, is it okay for me to do this? Is it okay for me to do that? I've taken very minimal risks, and the biggest risk that I took was going to Mexico, and obviously I paid the price, but
Oh damn.
it's okay. Like, for me, I live by myself.
Same.
I
So
can
do I.
I can afford to order groceries online, and I still have a job, and I still have it was a calculated risk. If I had 5 roommates and I don't really have the money to kind of like support myself financially and get groceries and do all that stuff, then yeah, maybe I don't do that, right? But I think everybody kind of has to measure out their own ability to take a certain risk to live a normal, healthy life during this crazy times, right?
Right. I mean, outdoor dining is just the solution of solutions in the meantime. So I'm in. Like I said, a little bit anxious about the next 2 months, but it feels like it's going quickly already. Like we're into the 20s, like the 20th of December. So December was supposed to be one of the cold months, and here we are, 20 days through it. So just pushing that fast forward button.
Not only
Over.
that, but I'm not a huge Christmas guy, but I love Christmas because that's when the winter solstice is, I believe.
Okay.
And after Christmas, the days get longer.
That is true. Like
The
in like
days
May or
get
two.
longer. So for me, man, I cannot wait for Christmas to be over because then all of a sudden I'm counting down for the sun to like stay out past 4:30.
I feel that.
I don't know how New York survives. Like when I lived down south, the sun didn't go down. Like the earliest it would go down was like 5 o'clock maybe. Here it's 4:30. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's a sad
I don't
world.
know. But anyways, no, that's awesome that you got to travel and when are you gonna tell your parents?
um, my dad probably never. My mom maybe in a few months.
Yeah, I didn't tell my parents I went to Mexico until I was in Mexico, and then I was like, screw it.
Yeah, like I mean, as long as I stay away from them for a little bit after I get back, then I'm fine. So I've
No,
looked.
yeah,
I mean, I got tested after California and stuff, and it'll be like when I go home and see them, that'll be after like the quarantine period anyway. So like they're safe. So that's I just care about them being safe the next few months because they'll probably get vaccinated pretty soon, hopefully.
yeah, and it's crazy
February.
because we know, like in the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't know what was what, right? Like, do you get it and do you die? Do you get it? Is there long term? How do you get it? Who's vulnerable? All this good stuff. Today, we're kind of pretty well informed, right? If you're young and you're healthy, you'll probably be okay. And we know that the older population and the more unhealthy populations, they're the ones in danger, right? So
100%.
be smart about it, right? If you do go back when indoor dining was a thing, if you did do that, don't go around hanging out with a bunch of unhealthy people or your parents, right?
True.
Like, be smart. But it sounds like you're doing everything that you should be doing.
A little bit. And like 2021 will be a new year, so soon this will be behind us. And we all learned a little bit about ourselves, and we lost out on some good times here and there. And if I told you that I didn't ever let that get me down a little bit, I'd be lying. But hopefully you can hear my voice that we move forward, and 2021 will be here, and January and February are the cold months anyway, even in a non-pandemic world that you want to get through. But we will, like after those two trying months, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, you know what felt really normal is when I bumped into you in Brooklyn.
That was actually Queens.
Queens, wasn't it? Was it in Long Island?
That was Long Island City.
Yeah, because I was in Long Island City, and then I went
Yeah.
to Greenpoint, and I couldn't remember where I saw you.
Yeah, I actually went to Williamsburg later in that night myself. However, no, we didn't run into each other in Long Island City.
Yeah, I wasn't the most sober, so
That's all
my
good.
apologies.
No, no,
No,
no. I
but
was very, very happy to see you. I wouldn't have known that you were there if you hadn't called out to me. So
no, dude, this is the thing that drives me nuts. Well, first of all, what I was trying to say is that life felt pretty normal at that moment
yeah,
when you're out socializing and you bump into people that you know and you catch up and you have a quick talk and you were telling
right.
me this crazy story about some homeless guy or some weirdo trying to like intimidate people or something like that.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy. I had to call the cops on that one.
Gotta love New York. No, but I mean that little moment for me was like heaven, right? It was like
Oh,
ah,
thank you. I mean, I was hoping that the one term that you described regarding me would be heaven. Thank you, Pablo.
anytime I get to see you, it's heaven.
That's it.
Um, no, but I don't even remember what the hell I was gonna try and say
Uh,
after
the,
that.
the normal, the normalcy of bumping into a friend. The fact that it felt like
Oh
the
yeah.
world again.
So not only did it feel normal, but this is the thing about New York City. I moved here because part of the reason that I left Charlotte is because I was tired of bumping into people. Like I swear, every time I went out in Charlotte, I would bump into somebody.
Naturally,
And because the city's not that big, there's only but a handful of neighborhoods that everybody goes to.
I got
And
you.
so you can rotate all you want, you're still going to bump into people. And then I moved to New York, and I cannot tell you how many times I've bumped into people. And I don't understand how that's possible. Like, well, the mathematics behind it
You're saying
have
you
to be.
generally don't bump into people?
No, I do.
Okay.
Like, I'm telling you, like, within
And
the
you've only
first.
been here like 2, 3, like you've only been here like 3 years, so you
I,
wouldn't know as many people as I do.
exactly.
Right.
And so I barely know anybody. I've only been here for 3 years. There's what 8, 9 million people in the proper five boroughs, and I'm bumping into people. Like, what the hell is happening?
I mean, all us, all us kids who try to hang out with the cool crowds, we're at the same spots. So like we're going to the neighborhoods where you're gonna run into people, like because we're not going into we're not going into South Brooklyn like where I'm from. Like I mean, when I go there, I run into hometown friends, but
Right.
like when you move to the big city and you want to be in like the fancy areas, that's where the other people who you collaborate with are gonna wind up as well. So
Yeah, it's just weird, but I don't know. It's something that I never expected, but
I mean,
it
10 minutes
is.
after I bumped into you, I bumped into someone else at that bar. So
Well, that's
there you
because
go.
you're a cool guy. I
I
mean,
try.
you
I
know, you
try.
know everybody.
There you go. My mom likes to boast that about me. So
um. So something that I did want to talk about
yeah.
is your incredible musical talent with the piano.
All right.
The first time I saw one of your videos on Facebook, and by the way, if you're listening to this, go to YouTube and type in Kieran Ridge piano, and you've got what, like 15 or so videos.
In terms of original stuff, right now I'm up to 9 official compositions, one improvisation, and two like piano arrangements. The rest of the stuff that I did is either like classical stuff that I did in college or covers of other guys who wrote arrangements in the more recent years. But these days, I'm pretty much just doing originals.
Yeah, the fact that you're doing original stuff on the piano just blows my mind. Like, how is that possible? Like, how do you do this?
That is a very good question. And I will say that my 10th original composition, which is coming out in a few months, hope sometime this winter, and that I've been practicing a lot, including today, is called Never Too Late because I didn't start, I've been playing piano since like, what, 94? But I didn't start like doing my own stuff until about 4 years ago because I guess after college, I fell out of it for a few years because I had no real public platform. There were no recitals or something, and the only outlet would be YouTube, and I didn't have the motivation to like learn a whole Chopin piece or Beethoven piece if gonna post it on YouTube and post it on Facebook, and maybe my Facebook friends wouldn't watch it or something. So I needed some outlet, and then around 2013, 2014. After I moved to the city, I discovered some guys on YouTube who wrote arrangements. So I bought an electronic piano for my apartment just to, get back into it myself. And I started learning their arrangements, posting it. Some of them would email me, like the guys whose covers I would do, even one original composition. They'd get back to me and said, like, that was a great performance. Thanks for covering it. And then after a couple of years, like I just started looking at the scores, the music, the sheet music, if you will, that they were doing, and just the sequences of, kind of rhythmic left hand runs over like the chordal melodies in the right hand. I mean, that's not always how it is, but you can picture that basic structure. Like I started breaking it down and looking at the sheet music, and I'm like thinking to myself, you know what, I can do this. So, I mean, I was a music minor in college, but you learned a lot of like the chromatic harmony stuff and the fancy classical stuff, which doesn't really translate to kind of the pop music sequences that I kind of want to write for myself these days. But just the fact that other pianists out there are writing arrangements of popular songs, I was able to like take their sequences and break it down and put it back together. 3 or 4 years ago, I got to meet my favorite like modern piano composer slash arranger, and I told him like, "Hey, I steal so many of your sequences and putting it back together and put them back together so I can create my own sound." And he just said straight up, "Hey, man, it's not stealing. Like that's how you do it. You break down the music and you put it back together." So you can hear their influence a little bit in my works. So my style was originally them, but eventually, you develop your own style. So like I have my own little gimmicks, my own little licks, if you will. So it's hard to truly put it into words, but I have the fact that piano is the kind of instrument where even as a solo, like it kind of can sound orchestral by itself. So many instruments you can only play one note at a time. It feels a little empty by itself. And I mean, I played like what bassoon, tenor sax, trombone a little bit in high school and college, and those were okay, but nowhere near rewarding as the 88 key 10 finger piano vibe, if you will. And the fact that I write my own compositions and I'm just a regular guy trying to survive in this city, and I just name my compositions after the important aspects of my life, no matter how stupid. I wrote a song called Kickball Melodies because, of course, I wrote a song. Of course, I wrote a song named after kickball, Pablo. Like, I mean, do you honestly
Why
think
wouldn't you?
that was my second composition? Like, and then I mean, I wrote a song called Pianolytics because I do analytics by day. So I'm a sick bastard who actually wrote a song about his career. So like I don't know what the hell is wrong with me, but a lot of my colleagues appreciated that.
I
So
love it.
thank you. I mean, some of my songs have like a data automation subtext, if you will, like accounting for the unforeseen, which is my most recent. It sounds dark, but I use that term in terms of like if there are data discrepancies, we have to account for the unforeseen, little geeky stuff. So I mean, I write songs about all aspects of my journey in life. So it's kind of I guess they all have semi autobiographical subtext, if you will, to who I am.
Well, it's funny that you say that because the two that I like the most, I haven't listened to all of them, but I have listened to most of them.
Well, good news
And
is if you're ever bored, you can listen to any of them. You don't have to listen to all of them at once. You're like, oh, I'm bored. I got 5 minutes. Let me hop on Kieran's YouTube. But you
nah,
can.
but dude, those are good. Like you're like this is why I wanted to like talk to you because you're talented.
I mean, I'm pretty good. Like I'm talented, but there are guys out there who I just feel like they can get an arrangement done in like a few days or a week when I'm like practicing the same thing for months. So I'm a little inefficient and I'm a little raw in some regards. So I'm not quite the expert that I would want to be. But anyway, you were making a point, and I was very curious to hear what it was.
Oh no, I was gonna say that accounting for the
Yeah.
unforeseen and I met my wife at Turtle Bay. Those are my two favorite ones.
I met my wife at Turtle Bay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, funny story. I met my wife at Turtle Bay on Facebook a couple of weeks ago because I had to learn the hard way that I used to post just the YouTube link, which people would have to click through on Facebook to YouTube, and that didn't generate nearly as many views as just posting the video directly to Facebook. So I had to learn that the hard way, and because I didn't get a lot of views on I met my wife at Turtle Bay when I posted the YouTube link 2 years ago, I'm like, you know what? It's the anniversary. Let me post directly the 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 video on Facebook itself instead of the actual YouTube link so that I can get more views. So that's I learned my lesson, and now that's how I feed it to the world because I mean, I only get a couple of dozen YouTube videos here, like YouTube views here and there. Like, I don't have a very popular channel. However, like that's not what I'm in this for. I mean, this is my
Right.
nighttime hobby, and I like the fact that I get to post, a piano composition, and people who haven't seen me in like 10, 15 years will still watch it and comment saying like, "Hey, nice job." Like the fact that it's a reminder to the world that I'm still here doing my thing. I mean, I don't post on Facebook much otherwise. I used to be like kind of I guess when I was 25, I used to think that I had text quit and I had to write jokes on Facebook. I don't really do that. I don't really do that attention seeking anymore. But now, it's just the fact that I get to share it with the world. And I guess I was a little sensitive about it a few years ago when it's like, okay, I'm crossing my fingers. I hope that I get 50 likes. I hope I get 60 likes. I mean, I'm over that, if you will. I just kind of do it for myself, and um, like every time I post a new composition, like I think to myself, all right, this is another thing I accomplished. This is another song that will live until the end of time because I'm never going to take it off YouTube. And in fact, I think to myself, one less thing I have to do in life. And later on, in about 3 or 4 compositions from now, I have a song called One Less Thing I Have to Wait, it's called One Less Thing I Have to Do in Life. So that will be a composition in like 3 or 4 songs. So a lot of my song titles are, it's a little bit of a meta aspect. The fact that I write compositions about my composing, the fact that my next composition is called Never Too Late because it's about me being a composer, me becoming a composer. The fact that it's never too late. When I was 29, I started, arranging my own stuff.
Well, I think it's just wild.
Pretty
I've
random.
I often tell this to people. I think music is the highest degree of intelligence and a sign of, I don't know, civility that a society can have. Um, I don't know, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because I'm just have zero musical talent, but the fact that a human being can create something that other human beings can just close their eyes, they don't have to look at it, right? And can just enjoy it or change their mood or do whatever. It's just mind blowing. And the fact that I know you and you are
Mhm.
capable of doing that is just, for me, next
Thanks.
level.
Thanks. And probably the first like half year or year in which you knew me, you might not have even known that because you just knew me as some kickball bro, and like I probably didn't even mention it to you. So I appreciate the fact that you would learn that level of depth about me later on. So
No, I mean, without a doubt, there was no way in hell somebody could have told me that you were out there composing piano music, right? I would have been like, ha, okay, sure. I've
right,
seen him kick balls and catch balls, but not in front of. I've never seen him on a piano, and now it's like, holy shit.
truth. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you made a point. Like, and I appreciate. And one thing I will touch upon the fact that something you said about like closing your eyes and have someone else create something where you can just kind of lose yourself in the music. I mean, I'm paraphrasing whatever, but like, I'm lucky. The fact that even though I had a music minor background, and obviously when you play piano a lot, you study a lot of scores, a lot of sheet music. So and some things are kind of intuitive in terms of how you can arrange something, but I didn't realize that I would actually have, be able to create like my own pop harmonies and melodies, if you will, kickball melodies included. Um, when I first started thinking about it in 2016, but the fact that I'm a data analyst by day, like I'm able to break down the data. I'm able to, see the final product and break it down sequentially, and then kind of put it back together and quantify everything. So, like the fact that I'm able to create something of a musical arc with the same approach with which I build my data automations, and like that's another reason why I wrote a song called Pianolytics, if you will. So the fact that people look at me and they see like analytics bro at work, and they're not wrong at all. And the fact that you wouldn't think at face value that I'd also be like moonlighting as something of a guy who writes his own piano stuff. But when you think about it more deeply, like I'm lucky that I have the data analysis skills because it's very overlapping. Like the Venn diagram of music, like breaking down music theory and breaking down data is just a huge overlap, if you will. So
Well, it shows because you've got talent. And the video that I really like, I think I couldn't tell for sure, but I think you were at Washington Square Park
oh yeah, no
and you
doubt.
were playing a piano. People were
Yeah,
just sitting there and just enjoying it.
yeah, it was good stuff because
I want that. I want that in my life.
I mean, this guy Colin. Yeah, I think his name was Colin. He's the Washington Square Park pianist, and sometimes when he would go on breaks, I'm like, all right, I'm going to sneak in. So fortunately, people were already there. No, it was not my own grand piano, and that was Les Mis. I Dreamed the Dream. That was Kyle Landry's cover. Kyle is the aforementioned guy who told me that it's not stealing when I see sequences. My favorite piano arranger and composer, and like my number one influence. Even though I have other guys out there, he's definitely the number one guy who I've followed, and I've been on something of an email exchange with him a little bit this year. So the fact that he knows who I am now, I got to meet him in person a few years ago. But anyway, the point that performance was a little bit. I was nervous to actually play in front of people because I don't have much of a public outlet. Pianos are heavy. It's hard to be in the room with people and a piano at the same time. So I got to at least give a little bit of a public performance, even though I was making some mistakes here and there. But I mean, I appreciate that you dug that deep into it, because that was like a popular one, even though that was one of the last arrangements that I learned from somebody else before I started doing my own thing, because it's been over 3 years now since I learned someone else's arrangement. But like I said, these guys influenced me. They influenced me to do it myself. I never, like, in 2013, 2014, when I fell out of love with it for a little bit after college, and for my first 6 months or so living in Manhattan in my apartment, I didn't even have like the piano. You can't buy a real piano. I have a electronic one now, but it's 88 keys. But the fact that those guys taught me of like a world of being able to arrange like a real song, a popular song, be it like Les Miserables, I Dream the Dream. The fact that you're able to compose that as a solo piano arrangement, that was just absolutely mind blowing to me in 2013, 2014 when I first discovered these guys. And I never thought these first couple of years that it would be something I'd be able to do myself. But eventually, like I said, I would just look at the scores, look a little bit more closely, and think, you know what? I can break this down and put it back together. Why don't I just start, I just started furiously studying music theory, and like there are some books out there like jazz harmony, which isn't as practical to like kind of the styles that I wanted to do. There's more education out there about like jazz harmony and classical harmony, about like music theory concepts that you don't really use as much in like the kind of pop style that maybe I primarily write. So I had to kind of learn it intuitively from modern music. I would have to say, okay, this is how the song goes. This is the chorus, and this is how it segues in back into the verse, and oh hey, the bridge is coming with the change of key. So the fact that I had to really think hard and quantify everything, because music is meant to evoke emotions in people, but I'm the kind of guy who will say like, okay, this is the emotion that this song gives me. Why did it give me this emotion? Like, I need to break it down. I need to break down the chords and how they move into each other, and maybe there was a key change, maybe there was some chromatic movement, maybe there was a dramatic repeat or something. So like all aspects of music, and I'm still learning myself. Actually, I'm kind of coasting on what I already learned. I haven't really learned anything I haven't learned anything new the past couple of years so much. I'm just kind of coasting on what I already learned a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure. I don't even know if sometimes it's hard to tell even if my songs are that good. Would I even like them if I could hear them objectively? Like I wish I could hear my songs for the first time, because when I put out a final product, which is you know, I'm never going to be a perfect pianist. There's always going to be like a mistake in my fast songs that are 4 minutes long. I'm never going to play everything 100% accurately and cleanly. So I have to do with like just a good take instead of a perfect take. But
Can you
I
tell? Like if somebody else was playing the piano and they were playing something that was kind of quick and stuff like that, can you tell that they're making a mistake, or
well,
does it all kind of just blend in?
I mean, to be honest, like I'm like this is good news for me. But if I hear someone else playing, I'm probably just more impressed that they're good, and I'll be more forgiving about their mistakes. I'm less forgiving to myself, but that's good news for me, because I guess if you're going to hear me play a song once that you've never heard before because I wrote it and I haven't released it yet, you probably won't even be able to tell that maybe it wasn't as clean of a sequence as it could have been.
Right, right.
So, and like I get down on myself for the little mistakes here and there, and I mean, I took lessons in college. I got really good, and uh, I mean, for high school, I only took lessons like 1 year. So in some ways, it's kind of getting better on my own, but not always having that expertise, not always having that professional, secondary look, if you will. So the fact that my practice inefficiencies, sometimes I'm working on a sequence and it takes me a long time. Where if I actually, would go back to lessons, maybe I would get it under my fingers, literally. Not I always use the term under my fingers figuratively. So the fact that I could use it literally here, sorry, I distracted myself. Anyway, there are inefficiencies to, I guess, the way I play, and I've only been, doing my own musical stuff a couple of years, so I still can't objectively necessarily say that it's, good. But I think my songs are pretty good. I mean, my style probably isn't perfect, but I mean, I'm very happy with the fact that I was able to just kind of decide on my own. You know what? Let me try to arrange my own stuff, and the fact that I was able to, put together a complete project. And the next one will be my 10th original composition, culminating, and the fact that it was very strategic that my 10th composition would be called, Never Too Late, and about the fact that of my own journey to decide to do my own piano thing.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to it. I know when I first saw you post something on Facebook and it was you playing the piano, my mind blew.
Thanks, man.
I'm like, wait a minute, this guy can play the piano? Again, I have zero talent. I tried to learn the piano for like 10 days when I was in middle school or something like that. And I was like, nah, not for me.
Right.
Um, no, but it's super cool that you're getting to do that, dude. I mean, 2020 has been crazy, but the fact that you've been traveling, you've been trying to kind of socialize a little bit responsibly, you're releasing music and still writing and composing. I mean, that, dude. Even though it's been a crazy year, it sounds like it's been a good year.
I mean, like I built the life I wanted, and if I knew in March that the world would be as crazy as it was for the next year, like maybe I wouldn't have kept my spirits as high. And like I said, I'm a little bit anxious about this winter because I don't want you know I don't want that social energy to shut down in my life completely. I a lot of people said that New York was a ghost town, but that we know that that's not true. If we actually go out and see that, there are still vibes out there. We can still sense that spirit of New York. So, I do my part of still trying to live my life and not spreading any not being part of this pandemic, if you will, and trying to be safe. But the fact that it hasn't killed my spirit completely is pretty cool.
No, man. Look, everybody's going through it. I think it's pretty normal to be down on some days, maybe
True.
even some weeks. I think it's completely normal, right? I think we're lucky that we're in New York, where there is a little bit of a vibe, right? I'm sure
Sure.
there's a lot. I was talking to my buddy Oscar, who lives in Spain, and he was like, "Dude, not only does most things close at like 6 or 7, but you're not even allowed to leave the town.
Right.
Like they're like in lockdown, and so again, it's normal for everybody to kind of go through emotions, whether they're up, high, and however you deal with it. Everybody's different. Hopefully, everybody kind of finds a healthy way to kind of deal with this type of situation that nobody has ever gone through, right? Like,
Of course.
not nobody alive has really gone through kind of this type of thing,
Not since
uh,
1918.
right? Unless somebody's like 110, 120, whatever it is.
I wouldn't be old enough to remember it. I mean, only like maybe five people in the world.
Right, right. So it's a crazy time. It's okay for everybody to feel the way they do. Not only that, but with the social and the political atmosphere and everything else, it's just been a giant shitstorm. So
Of course.
everybody should give themselves a break and should kind of just relax. And if
Yeah.
you want to feel sad, feel sad. If you want to feel anxious. But guess what? Next year is coming.
Of course.
The end is near. Embrace whatever you have to embrace.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just keeping my head down, and time will pass, and we'll get through this winter. So, like I said, I mean, I've said it multiple times. I said I am anxious, but we'll roll over it. And if our world can get through the past 9 months, it's going to be a little bleak, but we'll get our people vaccinated, and we'll see another day.
well, before I let you go, let me ask you one really quick nerdy question.
All right, nerd away.
Your data analytics and automation, all that stuff. Are you using Python, R, SAS?
Primarily, I'm using Alteryx, and that's like that's I guess I'm known as something of a really big automating guy, even among my analytics circles. So the fact that I'm able to, it's kind of a drag and drop tool. It's like Excel on steroids. The fact that I'm able to automate entire processes, and I was able to learn Alteryx macros, which is like the Alteryx of Alteryx. So I'm essentially automating my automations. Like I work for an ad agency, and you have to append different data sets together with different types of metrics. So if like we're running our ads on one site versus another, and we can only get these specific metrics from the site itself, and I have to append it, then I have a new tool built where I can just kind of click a few buttons because I already automated the automation. So really, really geeky stuff, and I'm pretty unapologetically passionate about it in the office and in life. And in fact, when I filmed my original composition Summit, I was wearing my I Love Data T-shirt. So
No, I love it. I tried to learn a little bit of Ultrix, but it seemed like a very drag and drop tool, and I'm not a huge fan of those.
all right,
Not to say there's anything wrong with it. I
I got
just
you. I mean, we all have our own flavors.
exactly. No, but dude, Kieran, thank you so much for
Of course, my
making
friend.
time to come on this podcast.
I mean, when I ran into you in Queens, you just said straight up, Kieran, I want you to be my podcast. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, you had that exciting story about the homeless or the creeper. I was like, you got to come on.
yeah. And I mean, and I'm sorry that it's been more than a month, but, I did my little Cali trip and I've been resting here and there. So, I mean, I definitely did. And we had Thanksgiving. So I definitely didn't want to ditch you. I was definitely interested in getting up on this. So,
No, no, no. I mean, dude, again, thank you for making the time. I don't care if it was a month ago today or a month from today. Again, thank you for the time. You live a very interesting life,
I try.
and I appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy. All right. Well, we got our kickball season in about 5 weeks, and we will talk until then. So we'll be in touch, my friend.
We're gonna dominate, and I'm gonna go buy gloves.
That's what it is.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you later.
I'll announce it.